Beneath a quiet green hill in central China lies a tomb that no one has dared to open for more than 2,000 years. Not because it is lost. We know exactly where it is. We are simply afraid of what waits inside. Ancient records say that within it flow rivers of liquid mercury, that crossbows still wait to fire on anyone who enters, and that a whole underground empire lies frozen in the dark. And modern science says those records may be true. This is the tomb of Qin Shi Huang, the first emperor of China. And its story begins not with the emperor, but with a well. In the spring of 1974, farmers digging a well in a dry field near the city of Lebanon struck something hard. Not rock. Fired clay, shaped by human hands. They pulled up broken pieces of a life-sized human figure, a head, a torso, a hand, all made of terracotta. At first they thought they had disturbed an old temple statue, or a cursed idol, and some were frightened. They had no idea they had just knocked on the door of one of the greatest archaeological discoveries in all of human history. Archaeologists came, they dug, and the ground opened onto something that stopped the world cold. Row upon row of clay soldiers, standing in perfect military formation, buried in long underground corridors. Not dozens, not hundreds, thousands. It became known as the Terracotta Army, an estimated 8,000 soldiers, buried to guard a single man for eternity. And they were only the outermost edge of something far larger. To understand why anyone would build such a thing, you have to understand the man at its center, and the world he conquered. Before Qin Shi Huang, there was no China. There were warring kingdoms, 7 great states locked in centuries of brutal war, a time so violent it is remembered simply as the Warring States period. Into that chaos was born a prince named Jingzheng, ruler of the state of Qin. He was ambitious, ruthless, and brilliant. And he intended to do what no one had ever done, swallow all the others. One by one, his armies crushed the rival kingdoms. By 221 BC, every one of them had fallen. For the first time in history, the lands we now call China were united under a single ruler. It was a transformation so complete that the very name China is thought to come from his dynasty, the Qin. Jingzheng gave himself a brand new title to match the scale of what he had done. He would not be a mere king. He called himself Shi Huangdi, the first emperor, Qin Shi Huang. And he ruled like a man who believed the world itself should bend to his will. In many ways, it did. He swept away the old feudal lords and divided his empire into provinces run by officials who answered only to him. He standardized the money, so one coin worked everywhere. He standardized the writing, so a single message could be read across the whole vast land, from the northern steppe to the southern jungles. He even standardized the width of cart axles, so that every wagon fit into the same ruts worn into every road. It was an obsession with order on a scale the world had never seen. He ordered the old defensive walls of the northern kingdoms joined together against the horse raiders of the steppe, the first great version of what would one day become the Great Wall. It was an empire built at breathtaking speed, and at a terrible human cost. Hundreds of thousands were forced into labor. Countless died. The emperor's word was law, and his punishments were merciless. He was feared across his empire, but there was one enemy even the first emperor could not conquer, and it was the one thing that would drive him to build the tomb beneath that hill. The enemy was death, and Qin Shi Huang was terrified of it. He became obsessed with living forever. He sent expeditions across the sea in search of a mythical elixir of immortality. He swallowed potions brewed by court alchemists, tonics that, cruelly, often contained mercury. The very metal said to flow through his tomb may have been slowly poisoning him in life. But if he could not escape death, he would do the next best thing. He would prepare for it on a scale no one had ever imagined. Soon after taking the throne, he began building his tomb. Ancient sources say it took 700,000 workers and nearly 40 years to complete. It was not simply a grave. It was designed to be an entire world, a complete empire in miniature, for the emperor to rule from beyond death exactly as he had ruled in life. And the terracotta soldiers were his eternal guard. What makes the army so haunting is not just its size. It is the detail. Every single soldier has a different face. Different features, different expressions, different hairstyles knotted in different ways. Some look young and uncertain, others weathered and grim. Historians believe they may have been modeled on real soldiers of the Qin army, which would mean we are staring into the faces of an entire generation of real men, preserved in clay for over 2,000 years. They were arranged by rank and role, just like a real army. Armored infantry, unarmored spearmen in the front ranks, kneeling archers, crossbowmen, officers, and generals, taller than the rest. There were war chariots of wood, long since decayed, drawn by teams of powerful terracotta horses, for a breast, muscles, and manes captured in clay. And they were not born grey. When they were first made, the entire army was painted in brilliant color: crimson, green, blue, ochre, lacquered and vivid, a rainbow legion standing in the dark. Tragically, when the figures meet the dry air after 2,000 years underground, that ancient paint curls and flakes away within minutes. Most of the color the world will never see. Each warrior was also given a real weapon, real bronze swords, spears, and crossbow triggers, thousands of them, many still sharp when unearthed. Some of those bronze blades had been coated in a thin protective layer that kept them from rusting for 2 millennia, a metalworking trick that still impresses scientists today. And yet, for all their wonder, the 8,000 warriors are only the guards at the gate. They stand in pits more than a kilometer from the tomb itself. The emperor lies elsewhere, still sealed, still waiting. So what lies beneath that hill? For that, we turn to an ancient historian who wrote just a century after the emperor died. His name was Sima Qian, and his account of the tomb's interior is so strange it was long dismissed as legend. Modern science is now taking it very seriously. Sima Qian wrote that the workers dug down through 3 layers of underground water and sealed the chamber with bronze. Inside, he said, they built a model of the entire empire. The ceiling was set with pearls and gems arranged as the sun, the moon, and the stars, a whole night sky glittering above the dead emperor. Below, on the floor, the great rivers of China, the mighty Yangtze and the Yellow River, were recreated in flowing liquid mercury, made to move and circulate and pour into a shimmering mercury sea by some hidden mechanism the ancient engineers had devised. A working model of an entire empire, rendered in poison metal. Imagine it! A silver map of a whole empire, its rivers of poison metal shimmering in the dark, endlessly circulating around the coffin of the man who conquered it all. To light this underground world, Sima Qian claimed the builders used lamps fueled by whale oil, chosen because it would burn the longest, meant to glow for the emperor forever. And to protect it all, he described a deadly defense. Crossbows and arrows, he wrote, were rigged to fire automatically at anyone who broke in, a booby trap set to guard the emperor for eternity. For centuries, scholars read these descriptions as poetic myth, the kind of tall tale that grows around a famous grave. Rivers of mercury? A booby-trapped tomb? Surely exaggeration. Then, in the modern era, scientists decided to test the ground itself. And what they found sent a chill through everyone who had ever doubted the old historian. Without ever opening the tomb, researchers tested the soil of the burial mound for chemical traces. The results were astonishing. The earth above and around the buried chamber holds concentrations of mercury far, far higher than the natural background, in places dozens of times higher, and heaviest of all directly over the spot where the burial chamber is thought to lie. There is no natural reason for mercury to be there. Something put it in the ground. The mercury forms a distinct pattern in the soil, heaviest in the areas that would match great bodies of water in a map of the empire, just as Sima Qian described. After 2,000 years, the vapor of those legendary mercury rivers may still be seeping up through the soil. The old historian, it seems, was not making it up. And if that part of the account is real, it forces a haunting question. What else that he wrote is waiting, intact, in the dark? Which brings us to the question everyone asks. If we know where it is, and we are desperate to know what is inside, why has no one opened the tomb of the first emperor? The answer is not superstition. It is a combination of very real, very modern problems, and the first one is that mercury. A chamber that may be flooded with rivers of liquid mercury is extraordinarily dangerous. Its vapor is a deadly poison. Opening it carelessly could release toxic fumes and destroy the very thing everyone wants to study. The second problem is preservation, and we have already seen the warning. Remember the painted warriors, whose brilliant colors flaked away within minutes of meeting the air. Whatever delicate treasures wait inside the tomb, silk, bamboo books, painted wood, lacquer, could be perfectly preserved in the sealed, airless dark, having survived for millennia, and then crumble to dust in a matter of hours the moment we let the outside world, its oxygen and its light, come flooding in. Archaeologists have seen it happen before. To open the tomb now, with today's tools, might mean destroying its contents forever in the very act of discovery. Once opened, it can never be sealed again. The third problem is simply scale. The tomb complex is enormous, larger than many cities, and the central mound has never been fully mapped inside. We do not truly know what we would be walking into. And so, remarkably, the modern decision has been one of restraint. Chinese authorities have deliberately chosen not to excavate the burial chamber and to wait. To wait for future technology that might let us see inside without ever breaking the seal, to explore the tomb without harming it, to read its secrets without destroying them. It is a rare and humbling thing, a civilization powerful enough to open the greatest tomb on earth, choosing instead to leave it sealed out of respect and caution. So for now, the first emperor rests where he was laid, beneath his jeweled sky, beside his silver rivers, guarded by an army of clay that has kept its watch for over 22 centuries. There is a bitter irony buried in that hill. Qin Shi Huang spent his life, and countless other lives, in a desperate hunt for immortality. He drank poison to live forever, and it may have helped kill him. He died, most likely, on the road during one of his grand tours of the empire, far from his capital, at around 49 years old, still chasing a cure that never existed. The most powerful man in the world could command armies and move mountains, but he could not add a single year to his own life. His officials, fearing chaos if his death became known, are said to have hidden his body in his carriage and packed it with rotting fish to disguise the smell, wheeling the dead emperor home in secret. The immortality he craved never came, and yet, in a strange way, he did achieve a kind of eternal life, one he never planned. For more than 2,000 years, his clay army has stood silent guard, and today millions travel from across the world to look into those unique faces. The name of the first emperor is known around the globe, spoken far more today than in his own lifetime. The man who feared being forgotten became unforgettable, just not in the way he intended. And the greatest treasure of all still lies untouched beneath the grass, a sealed underground empire holding secrets we have only begun to imagine. Somewhere in that darkness, if the old accounts are true, the rivers of mercury are still shimmering, the jeweled stars still hang from the ceiling, and the crossbows still wait, strung and ready. One day, perhaps, technology will let us walk that silver map without harm, and finally see the face of the man beneath the hill. Until then, the tomb of China's first emperor remains the greatest sealed mystery in the world, hidden in plain sight, protected not by walls, but by our own wisdom in choosing to wait. We know it is there. We know roughly what it holds. And still, we do not open the door. Because some doors, once opened, can never be closed again. And the first emperor, in the end, still guards his own greatest secret.